Thank you, Doc. The message, the music, the voice, the piano playing, all beautiful. Thank you. And now, our featured performer, the moment we've been waiting for. I'm going to keep this real short. Ladies and gentlemen, please, our new senior minister at the Center for Spiritual Living at East Hawaii, please respect Reverend Beverley. Honor and enjoy.
Oh, good morning, everybody. Good morning. East Hawaii Center for Spiritual Living. Whoa! Dang, that feels so good. That feels so good. Doc, thank you. Doc and I had a conversation, I think Monday, and I said to him, if you could, there are 3 songs I would like to hear on Sunday. Wait for the last one. So this is, if I make it through without tears, great. And if not, please just be with me in it. This has been an incredible journey to get here. And when it started, I had no idea that this day would ever happen. I remember a visioning session we had with one of my ministers, and it came forward that my church was a shack. And I was like, well, that's interesting, very interesting. And then one day I showed her a picture of our beautiful open sanctuary, and she said, do you know that's your shack? I'm like, really? She goes, you know, visioning is a little, it's a little malleable. It's your shack. And I took it, and I realized, and I stepped in there. And then one day I went up to Volcano, and the shack was there. The actual exact picture, and I think I maybe even mentioned this in one of my previous talks, the actual shack that showed up in my visioning, and it's not a shack, of course, it's a beautiful, and the word is for going past me. Anyway, we've all recognized it. It's made of grass, and it's beautiful. It's been there, and it's been redone. And it's a home for hula. So I knew that there was something going on here. And then, of course, Reverend Kathy called. Reverend Mark called, Reverend Kathy called, and I was like, nope, this is way too soon. But I came. And thank you, Reverend Kathy, not only for the call, but for everything that you have done and opened your heart and church to me and allowed this to come forward. And I know that Reverend Kathy may not, we've done a little switcheroo in maybe the official title, but Reverend Kathy's not going anywhere. Reverend Kathy is part of our community. She is our matriarch here, and I am not going to let go. She has no idea that I've said so kindly, well, whatever you choose, you get to choose, but she doesn't know that underneath that, there's this little stuff going, well, what about this? Well, what about that? Don't you want to do this? How do you want to do that? Because this is such an important part of knowing that none of this is done alone. None of this is done alone. There's no way that I could ever stand here and think that this is something I do alone. Well, if it was, I wouldn't be doing it, because that's not what I want to do. This is a community. We are led and have been led by an absolutely phenomenal woman, and we are not going to let go of that. We have a wonderful board that steps in here, and if you look around, you look at our volunteers, you look at our community, this is your church. I just get to do the dirty work. Yes, and I am so happy to do that work. So please know that this time is only a time of very gentle movement, and we allow whatever is going to show up in whatever form. We've seen new doors, we've seen new plants, we've seen so much of everything. this is all we're going to see. All right? This is not, there's no shakedown, there's no change. We're going through a simple, beautiful transition. And part of what I know and part of what I would like my talk to be about today, we'll see how much of that comes forward, is about the fact that we get to choose how we move through having a new experience within the old. We get to choose if we want to trash everything that came before or transform it into something that we want to see grow forward. And before we move forward into that very profound conversation, I got to tell you, it's close enough for Christmas that I get to tell you the story about these two young boys. This family had these two sons, they were twins. One was the eternal optimist and the other one was the eternal pessimist. So it was Christmas, and the family decided, well, we were going to try something different. So what they did, they filled the pessimist's room with gifts. Everything he'd mentioned during the year, everything he'd asked for, everything he wanted, they just filled his room with gifts. And then the optimist, they filled it with a huge pile of manure. So they waited. That morning of Christmas came on, and they thought, well, let's go check out what's going on. So they go to the pessimist's room, and they look inside, and he's sitting there going, there's too much stuff going on. There's too many presents. What am I going to do with all of this stuff? I'm going to have to unwrap it all. I'm going to have to find place for it. I'm going to have to play with all of this stuff. They were like, oh, well, that didn't work out too well. So they go off to the optimist's room. They open the door. Here he is, diving into the manure, throwing the manure everywhere. It's splattering all over the room, and they're like, what are you doing? He goes, there's got to be a pony in here somewhere. So therein lies the greatest gift we have. We get to choose how we want to navigate our lives. We get to choose how we want to see the things that are coming forward in front of us. We get to choose our experience. And it takes me back to my relationship with my beloved Scott. Now, you guys, he truly does exist. We've been together for 18 years. And as all of you know, in 18 years of relationship, there's some ups and downs. There are a lot of ups and downs. And we just navigate them and we keep moving forward. Well, about 5 years ago, we were going through a very hard time. Well, actually, I was going through a very hard time. I have no idea what he was going through. And that was a great thing for me to understand, that he was probably having a perfectly wonderful relationship. Me, however, I was having a really rough time. I would drive home, I would get there, I'd park my car, I'd stop, I'd sit in my car going, I don't want to go inside. I just don't want to go inside because it's not what I want to see. This is not going to be like this. This is not going to be right. This is not going to be this. This is not. All of these things. He's going to be doing this. He wouldn't have done this. Yada, yada, yada. This whole talk. What would you think I got when I opened the door? And so it is. Exactly. Exactly what I had claimed, I got. Exactly. And you know what? It can be no other way. It can be no other way. You know, Dr. Ernest Holmes, the founder of our teaching, he says, life is a mirror, and it reflects back to the thinker what he thinks into it. What we claim is what we're going to have. And I was thinking to myself, but, you know, this is not right. I'm doing the right thing. I'm thinking the right thoughts. It can't possibly be me. I'm doing it right. I'm having the right ideas. Yeah, well, I guess it must have been. So I'm having a conversation with my girlfriend, Jeanette, and she said to me, she goes, Bev, you have to remember that this is just the way it is. Nothing's going to change. You're just going to have to accept it. What? Nothing's going to change. You just have to accept it. Now, remember those words. But I'm like going, that's not even an option. That's not a possibility. I want something different for my life. I don't want this experience. Nothing's going to change. My goodness. Can you imagine if that's how we lived? We just was like, well, I'm just going to muddle through the day. We'll be that eternal pessimist. There's no pony in that world, and I want a pony. And if it's a unicorn, even better. Anyway, so I was like, no, I needed something. So I went off to visit my minister. Her name was Reverend Penny. And we sat down. And of course, I spelled out this whole story, because, we always tell our story. And she just looked at me. She goes, so, trash or transformation? I'm like, what? She goes, well, do you want to trash the relationship, or do you want to transform the relationship? And I'm thinking, I have a lot of time invested here. Maybe transformation is the way to go. Maybe I'll give that one a shot. I go, of course, transformation. She goes, you got to take Scott out of the box. You got to take Scott out of the box. That's all she said. I'm like, what the heck does that mean? You got to take Scott out of the box. She was a little Yoda. She'd go, knowledge you have, use it you must. So she let me go. She goes, so, okay, go take Scott out of the box. And so I went home, and I think this is a really good thing. Reverend Kathy does the same thing. She doesn't explain stuff. She drops a little gem and goes, go with it. She does that. And so you get to go home and propose, just, see what it is for you. So I came up with this. I realized that the ego, and I'm not talking about that prideful ego like, wow, check me out. I'm talking about that ego that just wants us not to kill ourselves. It wants to keep us whole and healthy and well and alive. That ego is trying to do its job. So let's say, for instance, you go in somewhere new. You go to Six Flags Magic Mountain. Oh my God, the ego is in hell at this point. It's like, you're going where? You're doing what? You're going to do hanging upside down? Are you serious? But anyway, it finds out that you're determined to go to Six Flags. Now, you can be going to a restaurant, and it'll still be doing the same thing. It's now going to find out all the information it possibly can about where you're going to go, how you're going to do it, how you're going to get there, where you're going to park, what are the dangers, what can I do? It's going to grab, and guess what? You help it. You go online, you research everything about this place that you don't know. So we're helping the ego to do all of this. The ego takes it all, puts it all together, puts it in a box. And then when you go on your journey, you take your box with you. And you have the experience, new experience, and once that experience is done, if it was fantastic, you throw fantastic into the box. If it was mediocre, mediocre. If it was horrendous, you throw horrendous back into that box. And when you get home, you put it up on the shelf. And then when you go there the next time, what do? You grab the box and you take it with you. So unfortunately, the chances are that if you had a yucky experience, you're going to have another one, because you're taking the box, you're claiming what it was, you already know. Ego has told you, you've told yourself, you know what it's going to be. If you've had a great experience, the probability of you having a great experience is really good. Every now and then we trip up with that word hope. Oh, I hope it's going to be as good as last time. So we let a little room for error go in there, but I'm going to hang on to that side of what we've claimed in that box is what we're going to have. So if you want to have a different experience, you got to take Scott out of the box. Poor thing. Can you imagine living in that box I created for him? He couldn't do anything but be, with me, exactly what I wanted. And we do this every day with all of our friends, with our families, our relationship. We've already claimed who they are. We have history, and we won't let that history go. But we can have a different experience. Dr. Ken Gordon, who was the spiritual leader for Centers for Spiritual Living before Dr. Edward Fullion, he said, we have to loose the consciousness. Transformation demands that we actually think a different thought, step outside of the bounds and restraints of what we know to be true or what we have experienced in the past. Be able to step into possibilities or potentiality of something that can be there. That's tough. Something that can possibly be there. To be able to stretch the boundaries that we have to allow for a new experience and a new idea. If you keep thinking it's going to be the way it always was, then it will be the way it always was. But if you step into the idea that something could be different, then that's transformation. It's that step that's tricky. And Buddha says this, happiness does not depend on what you have or who you are. It solely relies on what you think. What do? We teach, change your thinking, change your life. It's a simple statement, but it is the truth. So I went back to my minister because, so I'd figured out the box. I'd figured out, okay, I've got to take Scott out of the box. Well, how the heck am I going to do that? What is it that I can do, because we do things, what is it I can do to actually make this happen? So I went back to her and I went, Reverend Penny, I need a little bit more help. And she goes, remember the power of your word. Yeah? She goes, never forget the power of your words. It can only happen if you have a true desire for something different. You need to use your words. Watch yourself talk. Watch what you're saying. Watch what you're claiming. Your words are powerful. And then, of course, her Yoda came back in. Right, you will always be. And that is the truth. If we say it and claim it, that is what it's going to be. And so I started paying attention, and guess what? Things started to change. Things started to move. And I didn't have to trash everything. I was able to hold on to all the wonderment, all the fantastic things that we did have in the relationship. And actually, a whole new person showed up in front of me. A whole new person. I'm like going, I didn't know that was him. So I pulled up in my car one day, didn't stop for a second, went straight in the door, bam! I was like, ooh, this is cool. But guess what? I had to make that choice. And Dr. Ernest Holmes says it every time. We cannot live a choiceless life. Every day, every moment, every second, there is choice. If it was not so, we would not be individuals. So why is it important for us to actually want to transform? And I'm not even just talking about us individually. I'm not even talking about us as a community, that we allow whatever transformation wants to be known to come forward. I'm talking about humanity. Why is it important that we don't trash everything? Think about what we'd lose. Think about what we would lose, the beauty of this world that we would lose if we just trashed it all. We just trashed it all. Oh, we're going to start over. Boom. But we get to transform it. And how we do it in our own lives affects all of humanity, because we know that we're all connected. We know the interconnectedness of all life. And we know that if we haven't learned anything from COVID, it's that we are connected every which way. And so when we do something so little inside ourselves, we make that little choice. That choice for something better in our world, it's going to affect all of humanity. We know about the butterfly that bats the wings somewhere in China will affect us here, even if it takes a couple of weeks, or a month, or a year. When we make a different choice for our own personal experience, we're not being egotistical. We're actually working for a greater good of humanity. This is important work, guys. It is important work to not accept, not to just think that this is the way it always is. It's never going to change. No. We can always make a new choice to have a new experience within within our lives. So, in closing, I have an invitation for you, and I have another one later in the announcements. Just do it. Just do it. If there's something going on in your life that is not working for you, make a different choice. If you need prayer, call me up. We'll pray together. We will have a different experience, but we will not trash. We're going to hold on to all of the magnificence that has come before us, all of the wonderful memories, all of the beauty, all of that fantastic stuff that is that gem that we have. And then we're going to transform whatever is coming forward, whatever is wanting to be known, whatever is calling to be transformed. And we get to do this together. So just do it. Dr. Ernest Holmes from A Power of an Idea says this: we can deliberately repattern our thoughts to be aligned to our heart's desires. So don't limit yourselves. Think big, think grand, do wonderful things, but remember one big, big, big thing. We never do it alone. So always make room, allow room for Spirit. Let Spirit take the wheel. It feels pretty good when we do. And so it is. Thank you. I got through it. Woo! Yes. So let's take this to prayer. Let's just take this to prayer. We anchor it in prayer. So right here, right now, I know the one power, the one source, the one universal creative mind that I call God, knowing that God is all there is, all that is seen, all that is unseen, all omnipotent, omnipresent, ever creating, supplying, supporting, sustaining, and maintaining every single expression. There is no beginning, no end. It is all that there is, and it is the only activity. And I know that I am one with it. I know that we are all one with it. I know that we are all these magnificent expressions of the divine. And by our birthright, by the very breath we breathe, we get to live the most wonderful, magnificent lives as we choose. Spirit is always saying yes, yes, my beloveds, yes. So I know that as we set our intentions and express our desires, I know that as we say no to this, it doesn't serve me, yes to this, this is an experience I desire. Spirit has already said yes, 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 yes. It is here for you. I've laid the table. Come forward, sample everything, choose what you want, move forward. And if it is not working, you get to choose again. Yes, yes, yes. So I claim this for each one of us here today, for everybody listening, all the folks out there online, and everybody that is breathing to this day. Spirit is saying, yes, my beloved, yes. I hear you, I see you, I agree with you, and I honor your choices with love. And so it is. Thank you. I'm so happy to be home.
I was struck by something as you spoke, Reverend Beverley, because I was there for Kathy's inaugural address and now for yours as well. And I've studied presidents because they're interesting to me. And if any president ever had an inaugural address like either one of yours, we'd be thinking we've done all right. Thank you. And now, time to move into